Metro on 1019 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. In the 1960s and 70s, it was rare to watch or read news about Detroit reported by Black journalists. The stories were not being covered by people who reflected a large portion of the population. William V. Banks, an attorney, decided to change that. He purchased WGPR, which was Channel 62, and by 1975, the nation's first Black-owned television station was born. The station launched programs that were informed by perspectives from the communities in Detroit that were often overlooked in traditional broadcasts. Shows like The Scene and Big City News became staples on the network and in the homes of Detroiters. And many Black journalists were trained at WGPR. They then went on to be seasoned broadcasters at national networks. This weekend, the WGPR Historical Society is celebrating the 50th anniversary of its founding. Joe Spencer is the president of the nonprofit, and he was the director of programming at WGPR throughout most of its time on air. We spoke about his WGPR's historic programming and the legacy that the TV station carries. Take me back to the 70s, Joe, and talk about the political climate at that time and how it inspired William V. Banks, who's the founder of WGPR.
Well, yeah, to put it in perspective, we had just come out, in terms of time, we had just come out of the civil disturbance in 1967, which caused a lot of concern and about the racism and the kinds of unequal treatment in the city. And our founder, Dr. Banks, who was a practicing attorney and a political person, he just didn't like what he was seeing in terms of way news was being covered, how the Black community was being covered in news. He had already bought a radio station, WGPR-FM, in 1964, so he had the radio station. But he was aware through one of his associates, Julie Borkin, that there was a license becoming available for the Detroit area, Channel 62. Julie Borkin was what we would think of as a rare Black Republican back in the 60s and 70s. And Nixon had invited him and Dr. Banks to the White House for a state dinner. And at that meeting, they had a chance to meet President Nixon and talk to him about the license. And President Nixon, he then introduced them to Benjamin Hooks, who was the newly assigned FCC commissioner. And they helped walk him through it, and they got the license.
WGPR-TV, Channel 62, Detroit.
Some of the programs you all used to have on there, I want to talk about them.
Big City News with Jerry Blocker and Doug Morrison.
First is Big City News. That's like the flagship news show on WGPR at that time. Talk about how you chose the reporters who were going to cover that and the stories that you thought were most important when you first started covering news there.
It was a kind of standard news format. You got an anchor person or two anchor people, and they are they're reading copy and, in terms of issues, and they're leading into stories. And they're Jerry Blocker and the news team basically figured out what they were going to put on the air in the news on a daily basis. And that was done by, just paying attention, scouring what's happening on the landscape. You're getting news press releases all the time of people having activity going on. You are listening to the police scanner. I mean, all of these things, you're looking at all the different ways that information is coming at you, and you're selecting from that in terms of what programs, what issues should be covered,
How did the talk show Strictly Speaking get started?
Hello, everyone. I'm Shawn Robinson, and welcome to Strictly Speaking.
Shawn Robinson had come to me to talk about and say, hey, I'd like to do a talk show talking about what's happening with young people. It's not the kind of show that say that Jerry Blocker did, which was dealing with politics, and so that's what she did. She did things that had to do with relationships between young people, had to do with things that were popular with young people. It dealt with things like teen pregnancy and interracial marriage, and those kinds of issues were heavy topics for the time.
Seated next to me are Jerry Stewart, who is obviously a Black man. Jerry says he prefers dating white women. Seated next to Jerry is Stephanie Foster. Stephanie is married, or rather engaged to a white man.
I want to talk about The Scene, which was a pretty popular dance show. What did it take to get something like that off the ground?
There was a lot of talent here in town. And, of course, our people love to see themselves on the camera. So, it was just about structuring a show that had certain elements in it that you knew. But the key to it was the dancers, was the music, and the hosts, Nat Morris, and the people that he brought on to interview and talk with, aside from the dancing. So it was really a fun show, very, very popular. It came on daily, which is a lot different than Soul Train. Mm-hmm. And it reflected the culture of this city, the young people, a lot of the local businesses advertised on the show, and it featured, just all kinds of young people from the different schools, as well as people, we were in the nightclub or entertainment business. So it was a very, very energetic show.
You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II, and we're talking about the 50th anniversary of WGPR, which is the country's first Black-owned television station. It was founded right here in Detroit. Joe Spencer is my guest. He was an employee of the station in its early days. So, Joe, WGPR had to close its doors in 1995 after 20 years on air. What led to that decision?
Number one is the financial challenge. The challenge, the station always had challenges, as any Black entrepreneur, Black business is going to have in the general market. It's just getting a fair shake was always a problem, trying to get the advertisers to support the station. And you'd get a lot of the smaller advertisers to go, the local restaurants, the hair salons, maybe a dealership are there. But to get the big auto companies, the big product distributors and so forth, it was kind of hard. The other thing that led to the station being sold and ending it in 1995, Fox News or Fox Television, the local Fox station, which was new on the landscape, had not been around very long. Well, the network made a really smart move and bought the rights to the NFL broadcast. And when they did that, there was so much money in broadcasting for the stations that carry those programs. Stations began to flip. Here in this market, WJBK, which had been the CBS channel for as long as they've been in business, since the 40s, they flipped. As a result of that, now CBS is in Detroit without an affiliate, without a station to carry their programming. Because CBS had dumped all of its CBS programming, not just the football. They dumped all the CBS News, the CBS primetime programming, everything. And so CBS came looking for a station that they could get their programming on there. So they approached WGPR, Channel 62, and the leader at that time was George Matthews. Dr. Banks had passed away a few years earlier, and he made the decision to sell the station.
Is a Black-owned station still necessary today, considering there are Black journalists who work for and are included in the coverage that major media organizations do?
Well, I think they're both needed, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, the larger major outlets are going to go places that the smaller ones can't go. They're going to reach people that they can't. But the smaller, you need the smaller ones to be able to tell our stories, because, believe me, those people who are working for the major outlets can't talk to the Black audience the way they could if they were independent, if they didn't have to answer to the people who operate the bigger stations. So you need the big stations for reach, but you also need the independents to have a more clear and sincere voice and a more realistic voice about what things we cover. The issues.
What's the legacy of the station 50 years after it was founded?
The station did some great things. They had some great innovative programming that they did. And we also was a great training ground for so many people who came to us without any experience, with just a desire or with a little bit of training but no actual experience. And we gave them a chance to get that experience. Folks like Sean Robinson, who you spoke of, who ended up being the anchor for Access Hollywood for many years. David Roberts, who is the executive vice president of ESPN, who got his start at our newsroom. Terry Owens, who was a longtime anchor man at Baltimore. Patricia Harvey, who's a longtime anchor woman at the CBS station in Los Angeles. Just many, many people who got their start, who have went on to have great and successful careers, both locally and nationally.
Well, Joe, thanks so much for sitting down and talking with me. Thank you, too, for your contributions to the legacy of media here in Detroit. Very, very honored to be a part of that legacy and to be able to speak with you about this.
Well, that's a great opportunity to come and speak with you, and I appreciate what you're saying. And I just say that I was blessed to be there. You know?
Joe Spencer is the president of the WGPR Historical Society, and he was the director of programming at WGPR throughout most of its time on air. This weekend, on October 4th, WGPR is celebrating its 50th anniversary. There will be special guests there, including Pistons legend Isaiah Thomas, football and basketball stars Kendrick Perkins and Cam Newton, plus WGPR alum and ESPN Executive Vice President David Roberts. That's going to do it for us today on The Metro. The show was hosted by Robin Vincent and Tia Graham. It's produced by Sam Corey, myself, Kerry Jr. II, and Jack Philbrandt. Our engineer is Nate Bender. The music is by Sam Bobian, and our senior producer is David Lyons. The Metro is a production of WDET, a listener-supported service of Wayne State University. This is WDET-FM Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. Have a good day.